everyone's kind of dealing with COVID-19. And I put a post out on my Facebook page asking people to send me their questions that they have whenever it came to COVID-19. A lot of parents have a lot of questions
Yes.
when it comes to their children. First off, what recommendation would you have for a parent who has a child right now, even a young child or a child who's a senior in high school, as they're going through the pandemic?
It's really hard because kids don't have that same sense of time, and also they don't have the same sense of just even processing how complex this is. So it's definitely tough, especially like you said, if there's some really important milestones that kids are missing now and teenagers are missing, and kind of that grieving process is real. But I just keep encouraging the parents that I'm connecting with to focus on what you can control, focus on having a routine, something that's predictable, because that helps all of us feel better if we still kind of know what the day is going to be like, and what we can look forward to. And even more important than usual, to have little bits of built-in fun and family time and connection is very much a stress reliever during these tough times.
Yeah, and speaking of stress, what I've seemed to notice is that a lot of people are stressed out, but they don't even realize how great that stress is on them. What are some of the warning signs of this is beyond just be stressed about the day? I am putting myself into a place of possibly anxiety or depression or even deeper.
Yeah, it's such a good question. And even, I'm a psychologist, so this is my area of expertise. And even for myself, I think I was 2 weeks in and realized, oh my gosh, I think I've had an adrenaline surge for 2 weeks that's been carrying me. And once that adrenaline left my body, I was exhausted and not my normal chipper self. And I could tell it was really wearing on me. So I think people really need to be tuned into their bodies first and foremost. That's often a sign that we've had an emotional event, is if we're having trouble sleeping, if we're waking up early, if we're exhausted, having trouble getting out of bed, if your heart's pounding and you're having trouble breathing. All those can be signs of depression or panic or anxiety. And again, some of that is to be expected during these times. But if those symptoms persist, and if you're really having trouble getting through your day, or really just overwhelmed by the emotions, that's when we would advise you try to reach out and get some professional help.
What about children specifically? Because, sometimes parents hear a child throw a tantrum or they're upset about something and they don't understand what the child is trying to express. What are some of the signs that your little ones could be struggling?
Right. And sometimes parents don't realize that kids and teens don't show depression and stress the way we do. So they might not be just kind of lying around in their bed crying and moping. A lot of times kids and teens are irritable and angry when they're stressed and depressed. And if parents don't know otherwise, they can just think, they're just, bored, they're tired of being cooped up, and they might miss that there's something more serious going on. So definitely stay tuned to irritability and negativity. And I just always encourage parents to ask, keep checking in with your kids. I live with two teenagers myself, and every day I'm kind of seeing how their emotions evolve. And some days they're cheerful and embracing it, and other days I can tell they've got a little kind of funk that they just can't shake. So keep checking in and keep asking open questions about, how are you feeling? What are you worried about? What are you thinking, for your plans and hopes for yourself? So just to keep that conversation going and the door open is really important.
Yeah, and what exactly are open questions? Because sometimes people try to help and they don't have the questions, or they just rush to a solution. What are these open questions specifically?
Yeah, I think sometimes parents want to dance around asking too direct questions because they're afraid, oh, if I ask about depression or anxiety, then maybe that'll plant seeds and the kid will all of a sudden be stressed. But, we know as a psychologist and mental health professionals, that's not the case. So I just encourage parents to just come right out and say, hey, how are you feeling? Are you worried about anything? Are you having trouble sleeping at night? Asking those questions isn't going to cause the symptoms, but it will hopefully validate in some cases how the kid or teen is feeling. And they might feel relieved that the parent asked that and say, yeah, all of a sudden it takes me an hour to fall asleep because I keep having my thoughts spin around and around. And then the parent can say, okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah. And how does talking make it better?
Well, I mean, for one, kind of that validating experience for the kid or teen to know that it's not unusual what they're going through. And I always like when parents can be a role model themselves and to say, hey, you know what? I've had trouble sleeping too, or I felt a little extra tired during the day. And I think it's because of stress about all this. It's a lot, isn't it? To kind of to have that validating connection, but also for parents to get data. Again, kids and teens could have this really causing problems that are up and above normal. And that's why having those conversations for parents to get data and realize, okay, my kid is really struggling. And then again, reach out and get help. And we're fortunate in this time that even if a lot of things are closed, fortunately in my field, our telehealth is going strong. So there's really no reason why you can't get help via video or phone. So many options now if people need more professional help and they're just not doing well on their own.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about anger because
Sure.
some people are angry that their weddings got canceled. I had to cancel my ceremony. Some people
Yes.
are fearful, but then it comes out as anger,
Right.
judgmental, different situations. When is the anger too much? Because being angry is really natural, you know?
It is. And I mean, being angry in some ways, it's a much more empowering emotion than fear. So a lot of times I think we like to get mad because that feels like, okay, we can do something about it. Yeah, I'm mad. I'm going to post on social media how mad I am or vent. So it feels empowering. And that makes sense. But I think it's helpful during these times, especially to try to figure out what's underneath your anger and maybe deal with that. So if your anger is really disappointment that your wedding was canceled, then just kind of own that and say, you know, I'm just really disappointed actually, and try to get at those underlying feelings. I also think there's something that we talk about with our clients called radical acceptance. And that's where you basically say, it is what it is. Like, this is our world right now. We just have to accept it, because if you're trying to push back against it and say, no, that can't be, or they should have done this, or this should have happened, it's not going to do you any good to just to embrace it is what it is. What can we do to make the best of it right now? It could be really helpful to deal with that anger.
Um, and what about information overload? I think right now, you've probably seen it. The news is still going. We're still considered essential. And there's so many updates that happen all throughout the day. And what I'm hearing from a lot of viewers and even people on my Facebook page is that either it's too much information for them to process and they just turn it off altogether so they don't get any information on updates, or they feel like it's our fault that this is all going on.
Mm-hmm.
How much information is too much, and how informed should someone be when it comes to this pandemic? Because there's a line between this is totally stressing me out, or okay,
Yeah.
my grocery store is open and I know my kids are going to get a meal for a week. I got the latest. Cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There's definitely a sweet spot, and it probably varies some person to person with how much you can take. But I think for everyone, they should kind of have a plan for how much news and updated statistics they want to take in and just stick with that. So definitely having your phone on constantly to scroll the updates and have the news playing is probably not helpful for any of us, because as much as we want to be informed, too much overload is just going to keep you stressed and overwhelmed because it's always changing. So I like the idea of just kind of having a few planned out times a day that you're going to check in on the news and updates, and stick with that, and then just know the world's going to keep on turning. If you're not on your phone or have the news on, that you'll hear about important updates anyway.
Okay, and we've done this story before, the first time we met, about social media and its effects on teens. Uh,
Yes.
I'm posting this on social media because what I've noticed is that a lot of people connect and get their information on social media than turning on the TV for them right now.
Right.
So how much social media itself is too much, especially with our teenagers. They're so
Yeah.
vulnerable and young, and sometimes they see something, they think, oh, this is 100% true, or they put themselves in dangerous situations because of connections online. How can we help them with that?
It's such a mixed bag, because I think social media for a lot of us is helping us feel connected to friends and family and loved ones. And I've really found it helpful to feel like I'm not just, cooped up here with my husband and kids. So it's got the benefits for sure. But then I also am quite aware of soaking up negativity as people are posting and venting and posting statistics. So with our kids and teens, I definitely think, this is the No Wimpy Parenting author telling everyone, you guys can relax a little bit on the screen limits now. Like, if there's ever a time to let kids binge a little bit, even I will say, let's let them have a little more screen time. But even during these times, to still have some limits, even if you've increased the daily limits, to have some sense of limits and how much your kids are absorbing. And for yourself, similar to the news, to say, all right, I'm going to give myself, 2 hours of social media every day. And, we've all got the cool phones now that can track that. And once you reach that limit, say, okay, turning it off and going outside for a walk, or to play a board game or cook something, and just kind of be aware of your daily limits so you don't get too absorbed.
Yeah. Okay. Last question I have for you. A lot of people are afraid. They're afraid of getting sick. They're afraid that they may pass it on to a loved one who may has underlying conditions. They're afraid of the unknown, or why things are shutting down. What can we do about all of this fear, and how can someone reach out and get help?
Yeah, again, fear is one of our primitive emotions that we're just hardwired with, and in some ways, that's because it's meant to be a life-saving emotion, right? If we're fearful, we're going to be hyper vigilant to taking care of ourselves and our families and looking for danger. So we're hardwired to have that protect us. But the problem with something like COVID-19 is it's a marathon, not a sprint. So we can't keep that hypervigilance and being stressed and ready for attack, because this is going to be months. So again, I think people should be encouraged to kind of channel that fear into, what can I control with my little world, and keeping everyone safe, and trying to channel it into action instead of just letting it cripple you. And if people are finding that hard and finding that it's still just really taking over, then again, there's lots of options for people to reach out for help, to get online video sessions. We're having great success. Even if your kids and teens are struggling, we're having amazing success with my practice with offering video sessions for kids and teens. And it's actually been really fun to play cards and do craft activities and Play-Doh with my kid clients through video therapy. So there's definitely help available, and certainly my practice, Wynns Family Psychology, has those options. But wherever you live, there should be help, even without ever having to leave your house.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.